Hey YouTube, haven't really made any of the LS swapped Porsche content, so may as well give it a go. So it's been running pretty well. The last thing that happened and needed service was the Accusump system. So I'll just give you a quick look at what that's all about. Let me grab a light, throw it under here. So with this engine having a pretty good baffled oil pan, the Accusump is used almost exclusively for pre-oiling, meaning getting oil pressure before the engine is started. So it's installed here under the car in what you might call the transmission tunnel. The transmission's actually back there with the engine. This tunnel is what you would have a drive shaft go through in an all-wheel drive car, but mine's rear-wheel drive, and this is really just empty space. You've got the main two coolant pipes here as well. So yeah, the Accusump system. It has an electric valve that lets oil into it, and when it detects low oil pressure, this can open up and allow the air pressure stored inside to push oil out. I had an incident where I had a leak on the air side, causing the cylinder to get completely full of oil, and it was a really hot day, so before too long I had an issue where thermal expansion of the oil caused the cylinder to burst, and I had to replace the whole unit, just that blue cylinder you saw back there. Now I've installed the new one and made sure there's no leaks on the air side, that it holds the air charge. And now what I want to do is pre-fill it. So in the cabin here is where I've routed the Accusump air line. So this is connected to the air half of that cylinder. You can see the pre-charge is currently at about 24 psi. And on the oil side, I'm actually going to be installing the valve that could have saved my butt when I had the air leak. So this lets oil escape out when it's under high enough pressure. This is a 175 psi oil pressure relief valve. So just for ease of access, and if I can, so I can tell when it's leaking, I'm going to mount this in my engine bay, and it's going to be behind this this valve. It's just a 1/8 NPT valve. I don't expect to have to close this, but for the pre-fill process I'm about to go through, it's going to come in handy. So over here, this is a normal like lawn and garden weed sprayer situation, but I've hooked it up through this line into an NPT fitting, and then it's going to the 3AN line all the way to the Accusump in the middle of the car. I also have an air pressure fitting and an air compressor, so I should be able to pump enough air into here to get the oil moving out through the line. It won't be a fast process, but the idea is I can open this up and there will be a clear path for oil to travel. Alright, so let's give charging this a shot. Okay, just inflated it some more, measured the pressure, and it's nearly 60 psi in here, so we should start to see the level drop. It's all going through this hose, this valve, and the rest of the hose on its way into the Accusump. And as it fills the Accusump, we should begin to see the pressure here increase. Okay, so progress has been really slow, but it's occurred to me why it's as slow as it is. So I'm just barely approaching 48 to 50. It's because we got 48 psi of air pressure fighting against the 60-ish psi in here. So it's like I'm only pushing it in with 12 psi through this tiny hose. One way to get the rest of the oil I want in much faster would actually just be to let out some of the air pressure here and then recharge it. So let's drop this down substantially again. There, we're down to 20. You can see it climbing. Alright, so by letting out enough of the air pressure from the air side of the Accusump, we got down to just the last bit of oil. And before it started sucking in air, I closed this ball valve, so that's still pressurized. Our air side is still at a very low. It's like sub 20 when it should be, 70 or 80 ideally. Yeah, so now what I'm going to do is take the pressure out of this tank carefully through this Schrader valve. Then I'm going to undo the NPT fitting and reinstall the safety kind of oil pressure release valve. And then we can test that immediately with the ball valve. And if everything looks good, the last step will be to repressurize the air half of the Accusump. Okay, so I've got this oil bypass valve reinstalled, so moment of truth to see that it actually holds pressure. Can turn it this way, and hopefully we don't see any oil leak out. This drip was from when I disconnected the hose going to the weed sprayer, so that's all good. And now the last step will be to charge up the in-cabin air side of the Accusump up to, I would say, probably 70 psi with the volume of oil that we have in there. So let's do that now. Okay, so right now we got about 20. And there's all right, so we've got around 75 psi on the air side. That is now all charged up. We've got the oil pressure relief valve back here. I'm going to figure out a better way to secure this so that it's not vibrating as much with bumps and stuff. But that's now holding 75 psi of oil pressure. There's really nothing between it and the oil. And one last thing, just as a cautionary tale here, we've got the old Accusump cylinder. So the same thing that was under the car that served really well for, just over a year. This is the culprit. This is a 1/8 NPT plug that was plugging the port where the safety blow-off valve was supposed to be. On the air side, this is where most of the damage occurred. We have some signs of the aluminum body stretching, and all those threads just burst off. So this thing was just hemorrhaging oil through the air side of the Accusump. So the seal internally was also messed up. And yeah, there was no way to really shut it off. There was no way to prevent the engine from losing oil pressure in that direction. So had to call a tow, and then was able to thankfully just remove this whole cylinder and plug the port to get the car drivable. But yeah, so anyway, now it's actually repaired, and with this new setup all the way at the back of the car, if I ever do see a leak from here, maybe because of excessive pressure or maybe some dirt getting into this valve, I'll be able to just shut it, as long as I know that there's still air charge and there's no leak on the air side. Otherwise, I'll leave it open, and that will serve as a safety measure. So, all right, well, thanks for watching. I will try to post some more content with the LS997. There's already quite a few YouTubers with the same kind of setup, so I'll just drop stuff when I think I'm doing something innovative.